My entitled married coworkers always get all of the benefits simply because they have children, which allows them to get off work early while also not affecting their PTO that they've accrued. But after countless days of having to shoulder my coworkers' burdens, all because they had to take care of their stupid kids, I decided that I had had enough, and I ended up lying to my company that I worked for, claiming that I was a father and I had to take care of my child. And I did this just so I could also enjoy the benefits of my coworkers who were also parents. And with all things considered, I honestly don't regret this, and I seriously should have done this sooner. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm a manager at a software and communications company, and around 2 years ago, I had to take a sabbatical because of stress and mental health issues. Sometime later, I returned to work, and when I was asked what was new, I said I had recently became a father, which is a lie, but let me confess why I did it. For a bit of context, at my company, we all work from home, but several members of my team are parents of young kids. While I do respect their choice not to let their career affect their personal lives, I think sometimes the balance is tipped against those who don't have kids. My colleagues take a considerable amount of time off each week because of family reasons, and during that time, their workload is distributed among the rest of the team. Several times, I was stuck working on holidays because my colleagues had family events. Some of them have never worked on Christmas Day, even though they fully know part of the team has to be on call because of how our industry works. At one point, it became accepted that people who have kids can just unload their burden onto their coworkers just because their family comes first. I am happy that they spend time with their families, as they should, but also I believe our personal life and our work life should be separate. If your contributions to the company are capped by your personal life, then our compensation and what's expected from us should be different. This is more of an issue with how the company gives different privileges to some of their employees and not about the employees who have families. However, I'm not going to fight to make working parents lose some of their comforts. So instead, I decided to equalize my work life with that of my colleagues who have families. When I asked to return to the company because they were in dire need of help, I accepted and clarified that I had recently become a father and it might sometimes affect my schedule. They were obviously okay with that, and the first change that happened is that I stopped working overtime. I worked from 9 to 5, and at 5:05 p.m. at the most I'm logging out because I have to supposedly pick up my kid from daycare. Then I began taking note of how many hours a week my colleagues would take without losing any accrued PTO. They'd often take 1 hour after lunch just to take their kids to an appointment, or leave early because of family reasons, or they skip meetings because they're babysitting their kids at home. And I have access to everyone's timetables, so I know how many hours they're being paid for. So from time to time, I'd also say I was taking my kid to an appointment, and instead I'd stay online cleaning up my inbox or doing less urgent work that I'd normally postpone, while also avoiding the pressure of having to be available for the rest of my team. Sometimes I had a headache, and I'd log out early as soon as all of my work was done. In the past, I would have to stay helping cover for some of my coworkers. This year, and for the first time with this company, I didn't have to work on Christmas Day, and I'm not going to be working on New Year's. They'll have to hire someone else to cover for me and all the other parents who are too busy to work, because you know what? In my eyes, it's all equal. Now, here's the thing. There is no chance that they will ever find out, because we all work from different countries, and there's no chance I'll run into them or they'll visit me. I know it's a lie and I'm taking advantage of benefits that are reserved for people with kids, but I don't care. There shouldn't be these kind of blanket benefits that have a negative effect on some of the employees. I also decided that next month I'm baptizing my imaginary kid. They'll be raised religious and we'll be celebrating religious festivities during the year as well. And honestly, I'm looking forward to that long Easter weekend that my coworkers always seem to enjoy. This is hilarious to me because I know exactly what they're talking about. Seriously, in the working world, I've experienced this firsthand, where people who don't have kids suddenly get all the work of everybody who does have a kid. And I'm right there with the original poster. I get it. Parents should be involved in their kids' lives. But if I'm gonna have to take the work of literally everybody else in the office, all because my coworker has like some demon spawn, then seriously, I should be paid more. If you want me to do more work, I should be compensated accordingly. And no, I don't care about being a team player. Either pay me more or this is not gonna work. Or you can take this insane route of being like, yeah, I've got a family, I'm now a father, and I have kids. Like honestly, that is so funny that this guy worked around run the system and said, okay, if everyone else has a family, then I'm gonna have one as well. So while there might be some like moral issues here, honestly, I think I completely understand where this guy's coming from, and I just don't blame him for fabricating this family just so you can get that special treatment as well, especially if that means you don't have to work on a holiday for the first time ever with this company. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled family member has disowned me and claimed that we are no longer family, all because I didn't invite her over for Christmas Day. Here's what happened. So I have this family member who seems to think everybody owes her simply because we're family. She moved here with her husband and kids to be close to their parents and proceeded to get butthurt because their parents didn't devote all their time to her and her kids, and worse still, didn't spend all their money showering the kids with gifts. My husband and I have recently built a house, and it was finally finished in time for us to move in before Christmas. I have a lot of children. Some are adults and have moved out of the family home. The only thing I wanted for Christmas was to spend our first Christmas in our new home with all of our children together for the first time in years. They always come and visit around this time of the year, but with spouses, work, and other obligations, we haven't been all together at the same time for years, and especially not on Christmas Day. But this year, my wish was granted, and I was Buddy the Elf excited for Christmas this year. Last Christmas, my entitled family member fed me a sob story about how they had no one, and Christmas will be just horrible. So I told her that they could join us if they wanted to, which they ended up doing. They then proceeded to drink all the cocktails within minutes, just slamming them down one after the other. They sat around complaining about the heat and about other family members. They ate some food and then they left. And you know what? I didn't really mind. If I'm being honest, I had a migraine and I was cooking in 40-degree heat, so I didn't really have the capacity to care. I had been talking about my plans for Christmas this year for months, as well as moving into the house and having all my kids at home. Well, my entitled family members had plans of their own. They were all heading out of town and visiting other family members over Christmas. And you know what? All is well. No issue, no problems. Well, at least I thought. Christmas Day rolls around, and as planned, I had all my kids home, as well as all of the adult kids' significant others. It was a fantastic day. After Christmas dinner, I got a text message saying that we are no longer family. Now, my obvious reply is to say, what is going on? And I get a response saying that we're not family anymore. She's done. She then inserts all these weird threats and hopes that I have an amazing life. Now, I had absolutely no idea where all of this was coming from, but I guess in the messed up mindset that is entitlement, it all made sense to her. After a lot of back and forth trying to figure out what the problem was, it turns out their Christmas plans fell through and they had to come home before Christmas. And apparently, I'm a massive jerk because I don't spend all my time stalking people on social media and therefore didn't know they had returned home. And I'm also an even bigger jerk because I didn't invite them to my house for Christmas Day. Now, I had been very clear in the lead up to Christmas and had said multiple times this Christmas was the first Christmas in my new house and was being spent with all of my children. No one else, no extended family or friends, just me, my husband, our kids, and their partners. At one point, after asking what the problem was and getting no closer to an answer, I came straight out and said, is this all really over the fact that I spent Christmas with my kids and I didn't invite you and your family this year? Well, it turns out that's exactly what the problem was. They would have had to come back home for whatever reason, and she just ostracized herself and her family from the rest of the extended family. So they spent their Christmas in their home with just her husband and kids, while I was making the most of my day with my husband and kids, and it hurt her feelings that my adult children had their long-term partners here as well. Apparently, my kids' partners aren't family because being in a serious monogamous relationship for years means nothing, and she's blood, so she should have been invited. So honestly, am I missing something here? Where in the rule book of family does it say that I have to invite every man and his dog to my home for every single special occasion? Where does it say everyone else's happiness is my responsibility? How do seemingly normal people build up a mindset of the whole world owing them something? What should I do? Yeah, your extended family is being really entitled. Like, how are you supposed to know that their plans fell through? Like, you weren't on social media or anything like that. You had no idea that they had to come home and do their own thing. So it's definitely not your fault that you enjoyed your Christmas while this extended family member was just completely miserable. And if I was in your shoes, I definitely would not worry about these people in the slightest. An entitled customer tries to pay for a $3 candy bar with a $100 bill, only to then get angry at me when I don't have proper change that he demands. And I've honestly never felt more frustrated with a customer in my life. Here's what happened. So this story happened a couple of years ago. I was working on this big national department chain store, which I was hired for Black Friday, but stayed for the holidays. The company was trying to boost online sales, so every day they would do some type of new discount if the customer bought online to then pick it up in person. But they were always confused, and we, meaning the employees, spent more time explaining how the offer worked than actually selling stuff. So anyways, this man comes with his daughter around my age and a stuffed shopping cart. I scanned every product and told the final price once I was done. Now, picture a man twice my height getting red in the face with rage when he sees a price that is definitely not what he predicted. He then elevated his voice, asking me about the offers and why it didn't work. I tried explaining how it worked, but he stopped me immediately and said to me, "If I hear another word from you, I swear." Which, when he said that, I didn't really get that at all. It was obviously not my fault or anybody else's at the store, as everyone there was following the company's orders. The man demanded I canceled every product except the cheapest thing off the list, which was a chocolate bar that was worth $3. So I did, but it was over 50 products, and I had to beat the supervisor's card, type the password, and beat the product for every single thing. This process took me 20 minutes at least. The man then handed me a $100 bill to pay for the chocolate bar, which I obviously didn't have change for. Now, I could have buzzed a bell that resonates to the whole store and call my manager, but I decided to forget that it existed. I instead buzzed a little siren below the cashier's table that only buzzes to the other cashiers, but there were none. And since the man was the only customer and everyone else had their chores to do, no one else heard it besides me, the man, and his daughter. I even saw one of my colleagues a few feet away restocking some shelf, but he couldn't tell that we were having an issue, so he didn't offer to help. I kept buzzing that little siren, looked at the man, and just shrugged, just to basically say that I was doing everything that I could. It went on for 10 more minutes, and I kid you not, he finally got impatient. He said to me, "I don't have all day, you know." I said to him, "I'm sorry, sir. You're trying to pay a $3 chocolate bar with a $100 bill, and I don't have $97 in change. If you have smaller bills, we can do this quicker." He then says to me, "I have 5s, 10s, 20s, everything you need, but I'm not helping you in any way." So I looked at him and I said, "Well, I'm sorry then, but you're just gonna have to wait for a manager." Eventually, a manager came downstairs to check everything, and I asked them if they could get change for me. As he was trying to get smaller bills from that $100 bill, he whispered to me, "What a jerk," which I replied by saying, "You have no idea." Once that customer was gone, I told the manager what happened and started crying. He said I could have called him and he would have handled the situation for me, but he laughed and was very proud with the way I handled that situation myself. Yeah, that guy's a massive jerk. Who tries to pay for a $3 chocolate bar with a $100 bill? Like, when you're under that kind of scrutiny and pressure, all for things that are outside of your control and stuff that is not your problem, it can get really stressful and make anybody crack. So I don't blame the original poster for crying after that incident, because trust me, I have felt that way as well after dealing with some really entitled people, and I think that you handled that situation incredibly well. My entitled relatives cut me out of their lives after I refused to allow them to host their parties at my house. Here's what happened. So for a bit of background, me and my family live at this house with 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, a bigger living room, and a double car garage. My house is at the end of the street corner with a very big backyard along with a pool. Now, this house is pretty good to throw any big parties or some kind of get-togethers, but unfortunately, my entitled relatives are jerks and just the greedy type of people that you might expect. Last Thanksgiving and our Christmas party, these relatives throw small parties for 20 to 30 people. All of these invited guests were complete jerks, and they were heavy drinking clowns. Both parties were a complete mess, as these guests drink like animals and started fighting each other over politics, personal issues, and ended up breaking stuff at the house. Some of the girls that drink a little bit less were playing music loud on speakers and giving no real issues. Eventually, it's past 11 p.m. and they won't turn off the music, so more drama started, and it led to more fights and more noise. The cops were called both times by the neighbors, and they reported these fights and these shoutings. The first time, the cops let these relatives go with warnings and no fine, but the second time, they issued a $500 fine and left with a final warning stating that next time, the house owner and the people living there go to prison for 90 days with felony charges and a $3,000 fine if the neighbors ever complain again. These relatives had alcohol on both occasions, but they had 7 to 8 bottles of whiskey, vodka, and beers. But the guests to the house brought their own stock of alcohol and beers, and they fight and break things when they're drunk enough. Well, my relatives were in trouble because they promised to throw Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's parties. Now, due to the cops' warning, they were hesitant to throw the New Year party at their home. Every other place that they could look was either booked out or closed on New Year's Eve. They asked my family if they could throw the party at our house, and we refused for this deal for multiple reasons. We already had plans to go to someone else's place for a party on New Year, and we didn't know any of the guests that my relatives were inviting at the party. We knew about their past party problems and the mess that their guests leave, not even to mention the loud and stupid fights, as well as playing music way too late and breaking things and making a massive mess. And this is all because they get way too drunk. We would be cleaning the house by the time everybody leaves and dropping off these drunk friends at their houses. So they accepted our rejection and went back to look for another house. Then the very next day, my cousin and other relatives tell me that these entitled relatives are talking garbage. They're spreading rumors behind our backs to our relatives and friends. Eventually, they blocked our numbers and didn't want to see us unless we found a place for their promised New Year's party and pay the rent or cover their party cost altogether. Now, we were pretty angry, so we got into a verbal argument and eventually decided to cut them off entirely from our lives. Some people took our sides while some people took theirs. After the fight, we cut off contact with everyone else too, especially anyone who supported or took the entitled relative's side. And truly, through it all, I felt good because I really didn't like them and I didn't want to deal with their multiple issues anymore. Honestly, good for the original poster. Here's the thing, just because they're family doesn't mean you have to allow them into your lives, especially if they're gonna do stuff like this. Now hear me out, I'm all about resolving conflict and trying to make amends and apologize or accept somebody's apology because family messes up and family is probably the first people to offend you if anything's gonna go wrong. They are the people that know you the most and probably the best out of anybody. But these family members are way different. These people have a drinking problem and they're being super toxic because you're not catering to them and basically enabling their bad behavior. So all in all, I don't blame you for cutting them off because I know if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. My entitled friend keeps lecturing me that I'm not doing enough around the house to make the place look nice. And this is the same friend who's currently living in my house rent-free, all after he lost his apartment. And at this point, I'm seriously so annoyed and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my friend lost his apartment when his dad passed away. He had nowhere to go, so I allowed him to stay on my couch until he can finally get his own place. He does not pay rent. However, since my friend moved in, he's been complaining I don't pick my stuff up right away. Now, I work a lot of hours, and yes, I'll leave dishes, but not for long periods of time. I just have no desire to get dishes done after an 11-hour shift. My friend will mosey over and complain about dishes not being done, and he will also do this with a few items in my bedroom. He tries to tell me to do dishes or expects me to do them or clean my room. Now to this, I usually say that this is my apartment and I'm gonna clean when I feel like it because I'm the tenant. He gets frustrated thinking that I should have the same mentality as him and even goes as far as to accuse me of taking advantage of him or something like that. He says, "Oh, so because it's your place, I should have to get treated this way?" He then mumbles out statements about how he can't wait to not be around me at all. Now at this point, I'm confused as to how I'm doing anything wrong or how he even feels taken advantage of. He acts like he's in this really horrible situation, not having me do my dishes right away. He states he has no say in anything, but I feel like he's trying to tell me what to do in my own house. I can't help but feel like he's either being awful or trying to be controlling. I mean, he wants to tell me what to do, which is clean my own stuff. He's the one trying to tell me what to do, but I just don't let it happen. So am I manipulating this guy or something? What should I do? Honestly, I don't really understand why you're letting this guy live in your house rent-free, and I don't understand why you're putting up with that in the slightest. If this guy really doesn't like living in your house for free, by the way, while also not doing anything to keep it clean, then he could just leave and literally live anywhere else. There's no good reason for this kind of attitude. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would tell him straight up, look, if you don't like living here, you're more than welcome to leave and find your own place to live. Because right now you are doing him a favor. You're doing a kindness out of your own heart, literally for no no reason other than being kind. Like, you could have denied this guy a couch to sleep on from the very beginning, but instead you decided to do a good thing for somebody that you thought was a friend, but instead is slowly turning into somebody that sounds awful to live with. And the guy doesn't even pay rent. Like, seriously, what's going on here? So hopefully he can either move out quickly or some kind of agreement can come between the two of you, because based on what you've described, this guy sounds super lazy, and regardless of his circumstances, he definitely needs to get back to work and find his own place to live. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.